We have breaking news from the White House press briefing room about conversations that have been had with the big three automakers during the ongoing trade war with Canada and Mexico. The question you'll hear is from our own Gabe Gutierrez.
We spoke with the big three auto dealers. We are going to give a 1-month exemption on any autos coming through USMCA. Reciprocal tariffs will still go into effect on April 2nd. But at the request of the companies associated with USMCA, the president is giving them an exemption for 1 month so they are not at an economic disadvantage. So the three companies that he spoke to are Stellantis, Ford, and General Motors. They requested the call, they made the ask, and the president is happy to do it. It's a 1-month exemption.
And the president just posted on social media that...
Let's bring in NBC News senior White House correspondent Kelly O'Donnell. So I don't know, because I'm not in the briefing room and neither are you, but what do we know about the specifics of this, or do we know any specifics?
We don't know more than what Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, unveiled in that moment. She said that was a message directly from the president, so she was prepared to address it if a question came up, and it did from our colleague Gabe Gutierrez. What's implicit in this is that President Trump is willing to have ongoing conversations after he imposed these tariffs and to make changes. And as she said, giving a 1-month extension would mean these American car companies would not be at a disadvantage. So clearly, having the tariffs can put them at a disadvantage. So it's interesting to see that the White House is reacting this quickly to it. Part of what's going on here is, of course, in the first term of President Trump, the USMCA was the trade agreement between Canada, the United States, and Mexico. It was sort of the retooled NAFTA. And these car companies, as a part of that, there's a lot in the supply chain of American-made companies where parts of what are needed to assemble the vehicles are made in Canada and Mexico, even though they're American cars. And so having this additional time means there would not be a tariff on those elements of what needs to be done to put a car together and get it to market. But again, it implies pretty plainly that President Trump recognizes that having these tariffs does put a burden on these American companies, and by extension, that would go to consumers. So he's giving this 1-month reprieve. We'll see how much more negotiating he may be willing to do. She was careful to point out the meeting was at the request, the conversation was at the request of the auto companies. Of course, the president's very sensitive to American business and being responsive to CEOs when they call, especially when you're talking about the auto industry and Michigan, one of the battleground states that he won. But it is a quick reversal, although temporary, of his tariff plan that he has put so much of his political capital behind.